This weekend, Wicked for Good, Part 2 of the Wicked saga drops in theaters. That raises the question, what are the greatest Part 1 movies of all time? Today, I am reacting to an article answering that very question. Let's react. While I'm talking, be sure to join me down below in the comments section. Share your picks for the best Part 1 movies. This is where two movies were written and shot intending to be Part 1 and 2 of a story. A lot of times they quite literally say Part 1 and 2. Sometimes they're taking a book and splitting it into two parts. There are some other ones in here where they decided to functionally change things up. Also, of the picks of this article, this is not my list, this is their list, I'm just reacting to it. Which of their picks do you think is the best? Which one is the worst? And let's get started reacting. First up on the list, coming in at number 10, Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest, followed by Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End. This is an example of one where coming out of the first film was such a big hit, they decided to do two big movies. So it's not titled Part 1 and 2, and it's not adapting a book into two parts, but they made it specifically to be two movies that were released back to back and were shot together. And I have never been crazy about Dead Man's Chest. I was always disappointed by it. And so I would not include this movie on this list. I think just some of the fun of what they were trying to do with the movies kind of got lost a little bit because it just got so convoluted with so much stories, and they kind of had this whole like corrupt government being taken over, and it just sucked kind of the fun out of it. And so I just was never really crazy about this one. I would say. So on here, like for example, it says Pirates of the Caribbean, Curse of the Black Pearl is a good one. That isn't, in this context, wouldn't qualify as a Part 1. That's the first movie, but it was a standalone movie. So the Part 1 and 2 is Dead Man's Chest and then At World's End. Those two were shot to be a Part 1 and Part 2 versus the original film, Curse of the Black Pearl, was just a standalone movie. So that's that difference between Part 1, Part 2. That's what we're referring to with this one. Now, if we're talking about, is that movie one of the best? If it qualified, that one is a fantastic blockbuster. Wicked Part 1 following movie Wicked Part 2. You can see that this article might have been created just a little bit ago. I'll go with an absolute yes. This was such a pleasant surprise. As a non-Wicked fan, as a person that was not excited to see Wicked, I went to go see Wicked Part 1 and immediately became immersed in the world, fell in love with the characters when it was singing the songs. So it just gets you swept up in all the drama, the adventure, the stories, the world. All of it works. The performances are great. The production design is amazing. The staging is meticulous. So for me, this one absolutely belongs here. Number 8, Kill Bill Volume 1. And as a big Quentin Tarantino fan, sure, let's throw this one on here. Part of he wanted it to just be one movie, and it's actually, they're re-releasing the full cut. Volumes 1 and 2 together is like a 4-hour movie. Comes out in like 2 weeks. If you didn't know that, they're releasing what he wanted to release next month for the first time ever to the general public. So I'm very excited to check that out. The thing that really makes Volume 1 cut out is that it is much more action-packed. Like, when you think through Kill Bill Volumes 1 and 2, of the most memorable fight scenes, all of them are in Volume 1. I mean, the most iconic one with her fighting a zillion ninjas, blood spraying everywhere, that's Volume 1. But, you know, him doing a straight-up martial arts revenge movie inspired by all of these films of past decades, man, Quentin Tarantino is amazing. Number 7, Avengers Infinity War, with Endgame being Part 2. The original title, when they announced it, was Infinity War Part 1 and 2. And then down the line, they said, actually, it's going to be Infinity War and something else. And if you don't remember this, the title for Endgame was not announced until the first trailer dropped. And so some of us were trying to like watch the trailer with like doing this and like it dropped, but I don't want to see too much because we didn't want to spoil the title of the movie. We wanted it revealed while we were watching the trailer itself. But absolutely. As if you know my content at all, you know I love Infinity War and I love Endgame. And this is like the coolest thing franchise-wide the last 25 years was the Infinity Saga, and they truly crescendoed it so wonderfully. So Infinity War, I think, is just, the culmination of everything that they've been working towards, the best of what a Marvel Cinematic Universe could be. That you could make that movie with that many characters and have it be that entertaining and take some risks. Huge win. Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1. Now, I'm not the Harry Potter expert. I'm not the Harry Potter fanboy. So this one is a little bit more separate from me in terms of just like my inherent excitement for it. The Harry Potter movies were all very well made. And like I much preferred in this case Part 2 because it was the payoff. And Part 1 kind of just turns into a setup movie, just doing all the setup and all the fun is in Part 2. So I wasn't as crazy about this one. I don't know what I'm swapping it out for, but I'm not so crazy about this one. So when you have Infinity War higher up on this list than this one, I'm a little confused. So, but I don't think it's bad. I just, when you think best Part 1s, I don't jump to this one. Today's video is brought to you by HelloFresh. You may have heard of HelloFresh. They're the #1 meal kit in America, making home cooking easier with chef-crafted recipes and fresh ingredients delivered right to your front door. But this fall, they're serving up even more of what you love. They're bigger, healthier, and tastier. HelloFresh has doubled its menu. Now you can choose from 100 options each week. Feel great with an even healthier menu. This one's big for me because I watch what I eat pretty carefully. Choose from 15 plus high protein recipes each week with options like grass-fed ribeyes or lamb chops. HelloFresh now helps you eat greener with new veggie-packed recipes. This next one's my favorite. Get steak and seafood recipes delivered every week for no extra cost. Now with 3 times the seafood options. I'm a low-carb, high-protein kind of guy, so I love to hear that. I use HelloFresh, and you should too. The best way to cook just got better. Go to HelloFresh.com/SeanChandler10FM now to get 10 free meals plus free breakfast for life. 1 per box with active subscription. Free meals applied as discount on the first box. New subscribers only. Varies by plan. That's HelloFresh.com/SeanChandler10FM to get 10 free meals plus free breakfast for life. It coming in at number 5. Once again, if this had the It legacy almost would have been better if this was just the whole thing, because It Part 1 is so much better than It Chapter 2. I think it is so much more compelling as a coming-of-age story than as a returning to it as grown-up story. So, yeah, I thought that this was one of the best horror movies of the decade. It tackles so many things that Stephen King does so well, of creepy characters, truly disturbing concepts, while having great character work and doing a coming-of-age story. So, I don't know about number 5 on here, but yeah, absolutely. Number 4, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, followed by Spider-Man Followed by Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse. I feel it's really tough for me to rank this one because we don't have Beyond yet. And how good a Part 1 is, I think there is a correlation between those two things. Like, how well does Part 1 set up Part 2? How well do they go together? Like, that's kind of important. And a bad Part 2 can hurt a Part 1 depending on what you do in that Part 2. So it feels a little bit weird to have a Part 1 on here before we have the Part 2. And we're not going to have the Part 2 for several years. All of that said, Across the Spider-Verse is a tremendous achievement as a comic book movie, as an animated movie, as a Spider-Man movie. Like, all of the categories it's in, it found a way to bring something new to the table. I mean, his animation is just like you're seeing all these styles and representing different universes and playing around. It's so emotional. It's a Spider-Man story that plays with all of it. So I think there's so much to Across the Spider-Verse, so including it in the top 10, despite us not having the Part 2 yet, absolutely. Okay. Coming in at number 3, The Hobbit, An Unexpected Journey, followed by 2 sequels. No. If these are supposed to be ranked in order, this is ahead of Across the Spider-Verse. This is ahead of Infinity War. This is ahead of Wicked Chapter 1. No. What are you talking about? Here's the problem. Just go to Wikipedia and look up the page count for The Hobbit, and then look up the page count for each of the Lord of the Rings films. Just look at them. This one has a shorter length than these 3. They took this one and gave it the same runtime as these 3. It doesn't make any sense. There's not enough material here. It's not designed, like, The Hobbit is not meant to be Lord of the Rings light. It's meant to be The Hobbit. It's supposed to be a little bit breezy and Quite literally, the third movie, Battle of the Five Armies, the battle in the books is only a few pages. It's a few pages. And he gets bonked on the head, and then he wakes up afterwards. They took a few pages in the book. And the whole point is you're seeing all of these. The whole point of it isn't like that we're an epic adventure. It's a very simple person in this big world and seeing little episodes of it. And then they convert it into something else. So I think just inherently the Hobbit movies just feel stretched out because they are. That's what they are. Dune Part 1, absolutely. I loved Dune. I thought Part 2 is better, but that doesn't mean Part 1. Like, literally in my review, I was like, they haven't greenlit Part 2 yet, but as soon as they greenlit Part 2, I'll bump this one up, because this isn't a great final part, but once we know we're getting Part 2, I'll bump it up. And then if Part 2, it lives up to it, then, like, we solidify. And that's what happened. But, I mean, just true sci-fi, that it's dense, it's world building, it's thoughtful, thinking through all the little details, the cultures, and just going to a place that is far off and distant and doesn't treat the audience like they're dumb, and executed by one of the top directors working today that knows how to just create worlds and do visual effects right. And so just an amazing film. Final one on here, we've got Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring. I suppose it counts. Like, it's more like I guess it's the first in a trilogy, and it is part of a story, so it kind of counts. But, like, the other book adaptations ones that you're including in here are like, here's one book broken up into 3 parts. This is, and I guess we're going to include the Pirates of the Caribbean and Infinity War. I guess you include this one, but the fact that this is only 2 spots ahead of The Hobbit is kind of offensive. Not in a first world problems kind of way, but The Fellowship of the Ring is widely regarded, along with the rest of that trilogy, as some of the best book adaptations, blockbusters of all time. 25 years later, still as beloved as ever, just absolutely hold up. New fans discover it, continue to love it. So, like, this one being on here is like, well, of course, right. And only being slightly ahead of The Hobbit, which, since its release, has been like, ooh, maybe this wasn't such a good idea to do this in 3 parts. I think we're compromising this deal here. And they have it right next to it. Like, that's just kind of pretty crazy to me. Like, just come on now. But, you know, I'm not a big Lord of the Rings person the way that I am a Star Wars person. So, you know, sometimes people misinterpret that too. I don't like them, or I think they're bad. That is not the case. And I've never said that. When Two Towers initially came out, I had some criticism of the way Ents looked. But this was quite literally over a decade before I had a YouTube channel and was sharing my thoughts. If you know me in real life and want to find my contradictions, I did have some criticisms of Two Towers back over 20 years ago. But Fellowship of the Ring is a fantastic film that has stood the test of time, of course, belongs on this list. So you kind of go, what is the obvious exclusion on here? And sometimes it's a little tough as to what qualifies. But Back to the Future, if we're going to put Pirates of the Caribbean, we're going to do Infinity War, Back to the Future 2 and 3. That's a part 1 and 2. It's weird because it's part of a trilogy, but they did number one as a standalone movie, and then they went, oh, we've got this big idea for a sequel. I guess it's 2 movies, and they did it as a part 1 and a part 2. Back to the Future 2, I would call a part 1. I think it qualifies to be on this list and should be on this list. Is there anything in the chat? As an Indian, my answer is Baahubali, the beginning. I have not seen Baahubali, the 2-part version. I watched the epic version that came out 3 weeks ago. Based off of that, absolutely. This director is my favorite Indian director, that he just makes movies that have big, sweeping emotions. And in the case of this one, it's kind of like, it has Lord of the Rings epic storytelling. It has massive battles in it, betrayals. I mean, it's absolutely, I'll give you that one. Another one you could go on here of famous movie that was split part 1 and 2, Mockingjay, Hunger Games. I think this is another one where it's questionable as to whether they should have split it. And so it makes a situation where the first part just feels like a lot of setup and the payoff's in the back one. And it kind of breaks the pacing of both parts. Dead Reckoning Part 1 should be on here. Yeah, I was a huge Dead Reckoning fan. I think some of my excitement for Dead Reckoning dwindled because I feel like Final Reckoning was a big disappointment. And I feel like if you merged those 2 movies into one movie, I think you suddenly have like maybe like this incredible film. But they didn't do that. And so it just turned into a very long MacGuffin movie that was like, in and of itself, I was like, that was cool. I love that. And looking back, I go, maybe that should have been the first half. That's 90 minutes. And then 90 minutes is the second movie. And you get one epic film that has all the best stunts from both of these movies and all the little lesser things we get saved for whatever Tom Cruise is going to do next. But yeah, Dead Reckoning, I would throw that on there over, I mean, it's pretty easy to like boot Hobbit out of there. Do I like Dead Reckoning Part 1 or Hobbit? Yeah, let's throw this one in there. But anyway, there you have it. Let me know, what are your picks for the best Part 1 movies? The idea that it's either a movie split in 2, a book split in 2 when it was adapted, or we're going to do 2 sequels and we're going to shoot them back to back. There has to be that tie that these were meant to be back to back, not just the first movie of a series, but 2 things meant to be done together. Whether because of the source material being split or because in designing it, like when they announced Dead Reckoning, they said we're doing 2 movies together to close this out. Part 1, Part 2. That's what we're qualifying it as. Let me know down below in the comments.